Video 14C. This is the third video in this series, and we're going to go ahead and expand the meaning and causes and some of the treatments connected with schizophrenia. But I will allow you enough that when you go through the text, I'm not going to cover all the material, because some of the material I hope that you will be able to share when you submit your assignment in forums. Do you remember that? Remember that? Okay. Okay, when we're talking about schizophrenia, we're talking about three main types. And having said that, with schizophrenia, or subtypes, with schizophrenia, we have two types. We have positive type 1 and negative type 2. So when you're discussing schizophrenia with someone, you want to clarify, are we talking about positive type 1 or are we talking about negative type 2? And to distinguish particularly these two, I want to go through positive type first, is delusions. Delusions. This is a thought process, and it's not quite like a thought disorder, but it is a delusion where thinking that something is there when it really isn't there. I could be thinking that there are people walking outside on my lawn and they're 10 feet high. This could be a delusion of the thought process. Not necessarily a thought disorder. Not necessarily a thought disorder. I want to emphasize that. And then we have hallucinations. Hallucinations is basically anything that we perceive through our five senses. Now, what is interesting about this is one of the hallucinations that's probably predominant is the hallucination of an auditory hallucination, hearing voices that are not there. And when these voices are heard, a part of our brain lights up that's called the Broca area. It's in the side of our brain. It's kind of towards the front. It is called the Broca area. What is interesting about the Broca area, we have two areas. I'm going to go ahead and clarify this. We have the Wernicke area and we have the Broca area. And the Broca area is where you make sounds. Where you make sound. Okay. Now, what is happening, basically, the Broca area lights up. And so it lights up, and remember that this is where we make sounds, not necessarily where we hear sound. So, when these voices are heard, they are from the individual's own brain. And I want to emphasize this, they do not come from some type of environmental area outside of the person. They are within the person. And what's happening in the Broca's area is just the opposite of what should be happening. Okay, with positive, we have rapid, well, we have a thought disorder, and this is the word salad. Are you eating alien food? Didn't I tell you not to eat alien food? Don't you know that God food is much better for you than alien food? Now, I just got off of a spaceship, and they explained this to me, and you can see this a lot better if you're on the moon. That's kind of a thought disorder. Bizarre behavior, catatonic behavior, even way they dress, the way they act on a street it seems like these individuals, they can switch from one area to another. I know one individual that was telling me that he visited a close relative of his and who was in a psych ward, and when this close relative would see him, she was so excited. I'm so glad that you are here. It's really great to have you here. I want to get a drink of water, and then when I come back, I want to visit with you, and I want you to tell me everything that has been happening. Well, she goes, gets a drink of water, and comes back and looks at this close individual who a friend of hers, and looks at this individual and says, "Who are you? What are you doing here? I think you should leave." That is how quickly the thought process can change and the bizarre behavior. Now, with positive type 1, we have rapid onset. Now, here's a area that I want to look at. Very well, during the gestation age, and I may repeat this, I repeat myself quite a bit anyway, but during the gestation period, before the infant is born, that individual could show and have signs within the brain of a propensity for schizophrenia. Yes. During the gestation period, before birth, the fetus could have the propensity, and I want you to keep this word in here in mind. The propensity is important because certainly we think that the closest thing in an agreement is that there is a genetic factor. What is the factor? Not quite sure. The propensity, though, is in the brain. The average onset for schizophrenia, they consider during the childbearing years, and you may have a different interpretation of the childbearing years, but a lot of times the early to mid-20s, and I know that children can be born after that age, but the childbearing years is the years that they look at. Now, a teenager can have schizophrenia. There was one teenager that chronicled the stages that he was going through as he was going through them. So positive type then is a rapid onset, and it very well could be, again, and I'll emphasize other aspects, starting before birth, postnatal, and then when the brain goes through the rapid stages of puberty, through the adolescent years and into the younger age of the lower 20s, this could become evident. But the propensity was there while the child was in the womb. All right, for the most part, these individuals respond well to drugs. And this is a positive type 1. They respond well to drugs. Now going on to the negative 2 then, the negative 2 slowly overtakes an individual. According to the DSM, it has to be a month or more. If it's less than a month, they have another name for it, which you will find in the text. And it has to be evident for about 6 months. But the negative type 2, now remember, we have positive type 1, negative type 2 slowly overtakes the individual, where positive type 1, there was a rapid onset. Now, individuals with type 2, they seem to be withdrawn. Their physical actions are slow. They have a blunt affect, meaning that they do not have emotions with them. Some of the things that are evident is elegia, which is difficult with speaking, abolition, which is not being able to set goals and say, okay, this is what I want to do tomorrow, this is what I want to do next week, this is what I want to do next Monday. And also anhedonia, which is not having pleasure or being able to experience pleasure. Now, we have positive, negative, and mixed. Mixed is both negative and positive, where neither is really prominent, but they are associated together. Currently, there's no lab tests, nor no physical tests that can absolutely diagnose schizophrenia. Psychiatrists rely on symptoms. Symptoms. Okay, let's say what causes rapid breathing and an elevated heart rate? What would you say? One thing that causes rapid breathing and an elevated heart rate. Could it be running? Sure. Shoveling snow? Of course. Mowing the lawn? Yes. Hiking up a hill? It goes on and on and on. So if the symptoms are given of rapid breathing and an elevated heart rate, this could take us into all kinds of directions. And I believe we have a lot of knowledge on schizophrenia. I believe that we're going to have a lot more. But I believe that as we go through this, we're going to recognize that we start with symptoms and then we kind of branch out from symptoms, looking for other causes that could really be related to schizophrenia. Schizophrenia. I want to talk to you about schizophrenia. I'm just role playing now. Oh, good. Talk to me about schizophrenia. Okay. Do we want to talk about positive type 1, negative type 2, or mixed schizophrenia? Because so often we just say schizophrenia. But then another thing, we can pretty well name the symptoms of schizophrenia, and they vary. But it goes back to what causes rapid breathing and elevated heart rate. And we could go on for quite some time. Maybe we could spend another semester on different activities that cause rapid breathing and elevated heart rate. No, we're not going to go on another semester. Man, you folks do good work. I've got to tell you that. Okay, we'll be going on to the next video then and expanding this a little bit more. Remember, this will be completed in form.